Welcome to the Wild West, the American West, a land of vast deserts, rugged mountains, and dusty saloons. Outlaws and lawmen clashed in the untamed territories, their stories etched into the very fabric of American history. From the gold rush towns of California to the cattle trails of Texas, stories of daring heists, bloody shootouts, and larger-than-life characters spread like wildfire. Names like Wyatt Earp, Jesse James, and Doc Holliday still evoke images of gun smoke and saloons. These individuals, both heroes and villains, became symbols of an era defined by its untamed spirit and the constant struggle between order and chaos. But perhaps no figure embodies the duality of the Wild West more than Billy the Kid. Born Henry McCarty in the slums of New York City in 1859, Billy the Kid's early life was far removed from the untamed landscapes he would come to be associated with. Growing up in poverty, he witnessed firsthand the harsh realities of life on the margins of society. Seeking a better life, his family joined the westward migration, eventually settling in Kansas. However, tragedy struck when Billy was just a teenager. His mother, Catherine, succumbed to tuberculosis, leaving him orphaned and alone in a world that offered little solace to a grieving boy. Forced to fend for himself, he drifted from town to town, taking odd jobs to survive. It wasn't long before Henry McCarty shed his given name and adopted the moniker Billy the Kid. The vast expanses of the American West held a strange allure for young Billy. Leaving behind the crowded streets of New York and the painful memories of Kansas, Billy drifted from town to town, seeking his fortune or perhaps just a place to belong. He took on odd jobs, working as a ranch hand, a saloon barkeep, and even trying his luck in the booming silver mines. Despite his efforts to make an honest living, Billy found himself drawn to the fringes of society. He developed a reputation as a charming rogue, a skilled card player with a quick wit and a disarming smile. However, beneath the surface charm and youthful bravado, a darker side to Billy began to emerge. Little did he know that his search for identity would lead him down a path of violence and notoriety, forever branding him with the moniker Billy the Kid. The line between survival and lawlessness blurred in the unforgiving landscape of the American West. For a young man like Billy, struggling to make ends meet and haunted by a sense of rootlessness, the temptation to stray outside the bounds of the law proved increasingly difficult to resist. What began with petty theft, swiping food or supplies to quell hunger pangs or stave off the biting cold, escalated into more daring acts. The thrill of the heist, the adrenaline rush of evading capture became a dangerous addiction, pulling him deeper into the world of outlaws and desperados. His reputation as a charming rogue, once a source of amusement and local notoriety, took on a more menacing tone. Billy's skill with a firearm, honed through countless hours of practice and fueled by a desperate need to protect himself in a world where violence was a constant threat, marked him as a force to be reckoned with. Among these hardened criminals, Billy found a perverse sense of camaraderie, a twisted reflection of the family he had lost. The Wild West, for all its romanticized depictions in dime novels and campfire tales, was a crucible of violence. Disputes over land, cattle, and even perceived slights often erupted into deadly confrontations. Billy, despite his youthful charm and disarming smile, found himself increasingly entangled in this web of violence, his life on a collision course with destiny. A chance encounter with a group of cattle rustlers led to his involvement in a shootout, the deafening roar of gunfire shattering the stillness of the desert night. He emerged from the encounter, shaken but alive. His reputation as a skilled gunfighter solidified in blood. Word of Billy's exploits reached the ears of Sheriff William Brady, a stern lawman determined to bring order to the lawless frontier. The shadow of violence, however, loomed large, a constant reminder of the precarious nature of his existence. In the heart of New Mexico territory, nestled amidst the vast expanses of desert and scrubland, Lincoln County was a tinderbox of tensions waiting to ignite. The discovery of gold and silver in the surrounding mountains had brought a flood of fortune seekers, outlaws and entrepreneurs, all vying for a piece of the pie. At the center of this volatile mix were two powerful factions locked in a bitter struggle for control over the region's lucrative cattle trade, land rights, and political influence. On one side stood Lawrence Murphy and James Dolan, ruthless businessmen who had established a monopoly over Lincoln County's economy. Opposing the House was a group of newcomers led by a wealthy English rancher named John Tunstall and his business partner, Alexander McSween. The rivalry between these factions, simmering for months, finally boiled over in the winter of 1878. The Lincoln County War had begun, a bloody conflict that would pit neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend, and forever alter the course of Billy the Kid's life. The murder of John Tunstall sent shockwaves through Lincoln County and beyond. In the wake of Tunstall's death, a group of his loyal employees and allies, outraged by the injustice and determined to avenge their fallen leader, took up arms. They called themselves the Regulators, a band of vigilantes bound by a common desire for justice and a thirst for revenge. Led by Dick Brewer, a seasoned rancher and skilled tracker, the Regulators were a motley crew of cowboys, ranchers, and drifters, united by their loyalty to Tunstall's memory and their hatred for the House. They rode through the rugged landscape of Lincoln County, seeking out those responsible for their leader's murder and meting out their own brand of frontier justice. The Regulators' campaign of retribution was swift and brutal. The Lincoln County War was not a conflict fought by large armies or on distant battlefields. News of the escalating conflict in Lincoln County reached Billy the Kid, who was then drifting through the region, seeking his fortune and evading the law. The young outlaw, drawn to the allure of danger and the opportunity to prove his mettle, was intrigued by the stories of the Regulators' exploits. He saw in their fight against the House a reflection of his own struggles against injustice and a chance to channel his volatile nature towards a greater purpose. Billy had met John Tunstall on a few occasions and had been impressed by the rancher's fairness and integrity. When he learned of Tunstall's murder, a sense of outrage and a desire for vengeance stirred within him. He decided to join the Regulators, aligning himself with their cause and offering his skills as a gunfighter and tracker to their fight. The Lincoln County War would transform Billy the Kid from a petty criminal into a legendary outlaw, his name forever etched in the annals of Wild West history. The Lincoln County War raged on, a bloody stain on the rugged landscape of New Mexico. The Regulators, fueled by a thirst for revenge and a desire to dismantle the House's grip on the region, grew bolder with each passing day. Billy the Kid, young and fearless, found himself swept up in the tide of violence, his skills as a gunman and his instinct for survival tested in countless skirmishes and high-stakes confrontations. One particularly bloody encounter occurred in the town of Lincoln itself. The Regulators, holed up in the McSween house, found themselves besieged by a heavily armed posse assembled by the House. For 3 days and nights, the town was transformed into a battleground, the air thick with the smell of gunpowder and the constant crackle of gunfire. The shootout at the McSween house, a pivotal moment in the Lincoln County War, cemented Billy the Kid's status as a notorious outlaw. The Lincoln County War transformed Billy the Kid into a notorious outlaw. His name feared throughout the territories. With a price on his head, he embraced a life on the run, disappearing into the vastness of the American West. Every dusty trail and remote canyon became a potential hiding place, a temporary respite from relentless lawmen and bounty hunters eager to collect the reward. His knowledge of the terrain allowed him to stay one step ahead, vanishing like a desert wraith. The shadow of his notoriety followed him relentlessly. His exploits, often exaggerated, transformed him into a larger-than-life figure. Billy the Kid's daring escapes from custody became the stuff of legend, each successful attempt solidifying his reputation as a cunning outlaw. Jails and prisons seemed to crumble before him, their walls no match for his resourcefulness. The incident, recounted in saloons across the territories, added to his growing legend. No prison could hold him, no shackles could bind him. His most daring escape occurred in Lincoln County. Held under heavy guard, awaiting trial, Billy disarmed 2 guards and blasted his way out. The echo of gunfire shattered the night's stillness. Despite his daring escapes, Billy the Kid knew his freedom was fragile, a flickering candle in the wind. The law was relentless, and the noose of consequence was tightening around him. Pat Garrett, a former friend, was elected sheriff to bring Billy to justice. Garrett assembled a posse, determined to end Billy's reign. It was a dangerous game of cat and mouse in the vast landscape. Billy grew desperate, his youthful bravado replaced by a haunted look. Billy the Kid clung to a sliver of hope, believing he could outrun his past. He yearned for a life beyond his notoriety, seeking peace and anonymity. He wrote to Governor Lew Wallace, seeking a pardon. He expressed remorse, claiming he was forced into crime by circumstance. He promised to turn his life around if given a chance. Governor Wallace offered him a deal testify for amnesty. Billy agreed, desperate for a way out. He rode to Santa Fe under Sheriff Pat Garrett's protection. Billy testified, hoping for the pardon he sought, but Governor Wallace reneged, leaving Billy betrayed and hunted again. The betrayal by Governor Lew Wallace hit Billy the Kid hard. The glimmer of hope evaporated like a desert mirage. He was a hunted man with a price on his head. He drifted across the New Mexico territory, seeking refuge in remote canyons and abandoned camps. His youthful bravado was replaced by somber awareness. Pat Garrett was now obligated to bring him in. Despite danger, Billy found solace in simple pleasures, playing cards with ranchers and cowboys, his laughter echoing through dusty saloons. He found solace in the company of women. The summer of 1881 settled over New Mexico, bringing a stifling heat that amplified the tension. Billy became increasingly reckless, his actions fueled by desperation and fatalism. Sheriff Pat Garrett was relentless in his pursuit of Billy the Kid. Capturing the outlaw would solidify his reputation. He assembled a posse riding out from Fort Sumner. Garrett anticipated Billy's movements. On July 14, 1881, Garrett rode into Fort Sumner. He approached the Maxwell house, hand near his holster. Garrett entered silently, boots barely making a sound. He made his way through the darkened rooms, senses on high alert. Billy the Kid, unaware of the danger, decided to visit Pete Maxwell. Drawn by a craving for beefsteak, he approached the Maxwell house. His boots crunched on the gravel path. Inside, the scent of wood smoke and leather greeted him. He made his way to Maxwell's bedroom, hand on his revolver. Unbeknownst to Billy, Pat Garrett was in the shadows, revolver drawn. The past and present collided in this fateful encounter. "Quiénes?" Billy asked, a sudden chill gripping his spine. Garrett, his finger already on the trigger, fired. The bullet struck Billy in the chest, the impact knocking him backward. Billy the Kid, the notorious outlaw, lay dying on the floor of Pete Maxwell's bedroom. News of Billy the Kid's death spread like wildfire across the territory. In death as in life, Billy the Kid remained an enigma, a figure shrouded in myth. His legend continues to endure, his story told and retold. He has become a symbol of the Wild West, a reminder of a time when justice was often swift and brutal. The gunsmoke had barely settled in Fort Sumner before the legend of Billy the Kid began. His story became the stuff of dime novels and campfire tales, whispered in saloons from the Rio Grande to the Mississippi. He was both demonized and romanticized, a cold-blooded killer to some, a folk hero to others. The public devoured every detail of Billy's exploits, both real and imagined. Newspapermen spun yarns of his daring escapes and gunfights, often embellishing the truth. The line between fact and fiction blurred, intertwining Billy the Kid, the historical figure, with Billy the Kid, the legend. Motion pictures breathed new life into Billy the Kid's story. From silent films to Hollywood blockbusters, his life has been portrayed countless times. Hollywood icons solidified his place in Western legends. Billy the Kid represents rebellion, rugged individualism, and the pursuit of freedom. His story speaks to a yearning for a simpler time when the wilderness offered both peril and promise. Over a century after his death, separating the historical Billy the Kid from the mythologized figure remains a daunting task. The passage of time and unreliable accounts have made it difficult to discern truth from fiction. One persistent myth is that he killed 21 men, one for each year of his life. Historians suggest the actual number was likely much lower. Some argue he often acted in self-defense or in the heat of the moment. Despite the debate, his impact on American culture remains undeniable. Billy the Kid, the outlaw, may have met his end in 1881, but the legend lives on. The American West, a land of rugged beauty and untamed spirit, continues to capture our imaginations. Stories of cowboys and outlaws, of gunfights and cattle drives shape our understanding of American identity. Billy the Kid stands as a potent symbol of this bygone era. His life and death continue to fascinate and inspire. It speaks to a universal yearning for freedom and adventure. Billy the Kid's legacy is a complex tapestry woven from threads of truth, myth, and speculation. He was both a product of his time and an enduring enigma. Whether a cold-blooded killer or a folk hero, his mark on history is undeniable. His story is a cautionary tale about violence and the blurry line between justice and revenge. It also offers a glimpse into the resilience of the human spirit and the hope for redemption. Billy the Kid's story reflects our complex relationship with the past and the myths we create.